I give the floor to Jad Ghosn. You have 8 minutes.
Thank you, the speaker. I will. My colleagues described the catastrophe in financial, economic, and social and humanitarian terms, so I won't dwell on this subject so much. To just maybe go forward to talk about our days, maybe the solutions that can be proposed concerning the humanitarian crisis we have in Lebanon and endemic corruption. So I wrote down some material just to try to stick up to the 8 minutes that you gave us. So it's no news, the situation that we described maybe in Lebanon, but what's even more cruel than this crisis we are living in is the management of this crisis by the confessional ruling political parties. Not one decision concerning the deficit in the balance of payments, or the devaluation of the Lebanese lira, or the bankrupt central bank and banking sector, or people's deposits in these banks, or the national debt, or the shrinking of our GDP from around $55 billion in about 2019 before the crisis to around $18 billion expected at the end of this year. Not even a capital control law has been passed 2 years after the banks enforced an illegal and discretionary capital control on money, while billions of dollars belonging to people in circles of power were transferred out of the country, multiplying the losses of those still held hostage. 1 year and 10 months since the beginning of the crisis, and 11 months since the huge explosion of the Beirut port, and the golden rule of our civil war inherited political system has not been breached yet, impunity in the name of confessionalism. But the truth is that all that I have described are mere symptoms to an older original sin that our political system was built on, which is this transformation of the 15-year-old warlords of the confessional militias that massacred each other between 1975 and 1990 to statesmen of the peace era. The price was eroding the government as the center of decision-making and transforming it into a place where they share states' positions, assets, services to be distributed to their constituents in return of political loyalty. That's why electricity shortages that we're living nowadays are not mere product of the crisis, but date back to 1997. And our last train station worked till 1991. Since 1991, we don't have any efficient public transportation sector. The public debt, the unsustainable public debt, is a crisis that dates back to 1998. Our lack of foreign exchange and management of the deficit of balance of payments date back to 2001, 2002, 2007, 2018. And one asked the question how the system that was in a deadlock since the 90s survived, maybe due to two factors. The first was the local approval, maybe aided by these clientelistic ways of governing the state after the civil war in Lebanon, but also by foreign intervention that aided the political class in Lebanon to sustain its rule. Since 2001 and Paris I conference, Paris II conference in 2002, Paris III conference in 2007, and the SAD conference in 2018, that were aid to the country without any conditions, any real conditions. The last of these was the SAD conference, in which billions of dollars were promised, not handed yet, but promised to the state just 2 weeks before the elections, which is odd, to say the least. Until this day, if our crisis is left to be managed by the framework of this political system, that's now in its 31st birthday, that takes place, that takes the people as hostages of a power play between warlords in the name of confessionalism, our future looks quite bleak. and here I disagree a little bit with my colleague Rachel, even elections cannot be a way out of this mix of criminality and incompetence, because under this regime and conditions, bribery is cheap and terrorizing people is easy, and it will be like asking the Egyptians or the Iraqis in the 90s to go down with Hosni Mubarak or Saddam Hussein in their next elections. Things might be a little bit more complicated. I believe after 31 years of this political system, something has to change from within in the Lebanese population's view to their ruling class, and that began in 2019 and the demonstrations that happened, but also from without by knowing that sanctions and aid to Lebanon should be conditioned on a government, not on forming any government and not on holding any elections, because these can be used as lifelines to this political class as they did in 2001, 2, 7, and 18, but on a government leading a transitional phase from a confessional system of mutual vetoes to a post-confessional state, a secular state, that can get the state out of the stronghold, the pseudo-feudal warlords, to turn into a center of decision-making, to be an interlocutor to the IMF, to the European Union, and to anybody in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jad.